For 6 years, I suffered in silence. And I find it hard to believe that the men and women at the police department that I worked with didn't know something was going on.
You're listening to Rise Above, a Rogers Behavioral Health podcast, where we sit down with Rogers experts who are changing the way the world views mental health and addiction. Welcome to Rise Above, a podcast from Rogers Behavioral Health. I'm your host, Andy Meadow, and today we're talking about a critical resource designed specifically for those who serve our communities every day, the Rogers Firewatch program. It's a program built with first responders in mind, recognizing their unique experiences, their unique stressors, and the importance of getting support from people who truly understand their job. And in this episode, we'll learn more about the Firewatch program from Jen Parra Nelsen, Clinical Director at Rogers Behavioral Health. And we'll also hear from Captain Adam Meyers, founder of Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma, who shares his personal journey and why the programs like Firewatch are so essential. Jen, Captain Meyers, thank you both so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
Thank you.
I wanted to start with you, Captain Meyers. What makes you so passionate about mental health and first responders?
Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't always passionate about mental health until I was involved in a critical incident. On April 8, 2016, I was involved in a critical incident. I used deadly force on somebody who armed themselves with a hatchet inside our Walmart store. And I ended up shooting them, and they ended up dying. And for many years, 6 years actually, I suffered in silence. I struggled with my mental health. I had poor coping strategies such as abusing alcohol, self-harm, abusing over-the-counter drugs, abusing marijuana, abusing prescription drugs, and even casual sex. Those were all poor coping strategies. They may have helped me momentarily, but in the long run, they just cause more harm than good, cause more anxiety, stress, depression. And I did that for 6 years. So once I finally decided to get the right kind of help, put myself first, as first responders, we tend to put everybody else first, but I finally said enough was enough. It's not working for me. I got very lucky over the years struggling and trying to take care of myself the way I did, that I wasn't arrested, that I didn't die, because I did think of suicide many times, that I got the right kind of help. And as I got healthier, I looked back and realized and understood more as to everything that I was doing and why it didn't work and why it caused more harm than good. And that just made my, mental health advocacy even stronger. That's where it all came from. And I realized that because I'm a different person now after my critical incident than I was before. Before I wasn't interested that much into the whole mental health aspect, and now it's extremely important to me. And I do everything I can to share my experience and to help other first responders because I know what I went through. I understand that you can't do it by yourself. Many years I thought to myself, if I just keep going, everything will fall into place. Everything will be okay. I don't need help. And I was wrong. I needed help and I couldn't do it myself, but I thought I could. And I just kept going, and I'm lucky that I survived.
Jen, I feel like this is where it's a good time to bring up the Firewatch program at Rogers Behavioral Health. You are, is it safe to say, in charge of it?
Well, I'm the director of the program, yes, and I write the curriculum for it, and I work really hard to ensure that we're getting the word out that these services are available. I mean, I think what Adam has just said about what he has went through, and not just being able to offer services for those who are going through, really traumatic incidences and going through a lot of stress. I mean, we know first responders are exposed to, countless extraordinary events that the average person may never go through, never encounter, never see, maybe happen to them once, but these are folks that are putting themselves in these situations on a regular basis, and we can't expect them to always be able to come out on the other side without having some consequence. And I think, with the Firewatch program and just getting into this space the last couple of years, I'm a daughter of a veteran. So veteran concerns have always been something that has been near and dear to my heart. But, it's important for us to be there on both sides of what first responders do, right? The preventative side, education, kind of what Adam is doing now with his work with Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma is, we need to be having these conversations. And I think that's what the Firewatch program is doing on many levels is both there when things happen, but also, we're there when the stresses aren't that get to that extent, right? And when you're starting to feel some of that stress mount up and affect the way you live, we can be there to help it, to prevent it, to get to that level where you're using substances and other things to distract from the pain.
So what's the significance of it just being a program for first responders that isn't just for all civilians?
There is that unique culture that exists within the veteran and first responder population. There's a brother sisterhood that occurs. There's that connection, that reliance, that shared goal, that shared mindset of putting others in the mission in front of themselves, and they do that together, and there's that camaraderie of doing that. And again, like I said before, putting themselves in extraordinary situations where a civilian wouldn't understand. And it can feel very isolating, especially when you're trying to talk about it with somebody who wouldn't understand that situation. And there can be a lot of shame, a lot of moral injury that comes along with some of those things, because, when you're in combat, your mission is to potentially kill someone. And then when you're back in civilian culture, that is something that we don't promote, or, it feels very opposite to what maybe you were told. So, that camaraderie, that getting it is probably one of the most important things that we can offer in this program. And I would love to hear, Adam, if you have anything to say about that as well.
I agree with you, Jen. I mean, first responders, they want clinicians that understand us and that are cultural, competent, somebody who knows what they're talking about, and not just somebody who's book smart and sits there and listens and says you should do this, that, and the other thing. For years when I suffered in silence, it was because I was afraid of that stigma. I was afraid of being judged. Confidentiality. I worked hard to become a police officer. I am also a veteran. I was military police in the Army for 5 years, active duty, and I worked hard to be a police officer. That's all I ever wanted to be, is grow up and be a police officer. So I wanted some, strict assurance that seeking help wouldn't result in being deemed unfit for duty or other kind of career repercussions. That, and that's why I went to therapy, and then I didn't go, and then I did, and then I said, forget it, I'll take care of it myself. And I was wrong. I should have gotten, help like Firewatch offers. I mean, that's great. I mean, it's, a program like that, it gains trust, it encourages conversation, and it, clinicians listen without judgment. That's important. And as a first responder, we deal with the worst of the worst, or we deal with it the way we think we should deal with it, which isn't always healthy. But, for many years, I stopped going to therapy because I thought that I could just take care of it myself. It was part of the job. If I keep going, everything will be fine. And I wish there was somebody there with me during that time to kind of push me, to kind of motivate me, to say, hey, Adam, we know how you were and we know how you are now, and we'll support you, but you really need to get some kind of help. And we would like you to see that. And I think that little bit of motivation, over time probably would have led me into a program similar to Firewatch. But we didn't have anything like that. There was no follow through with me. I was cleared from my shooting, went back to work. There was no ensuring that I was going to therapy. There was no making sure Adam is okay. Are you going to therapy? Are you doing this, that, and the other thing? No, I think it was just the vibe I got was like, hey, Adam's back at work. If he needs anything, he'll let us know or he'll ask us. And I wasn't going to. You got to be kidding me. I wasn't going to be reaching out and saying, hey, I'm excessively drinking. I'm participating in casual sex. I'm trying marijuana for I just wouldn't have. So that's why a program like Firewatch is great. It's difficult to build that trust and earn that trust with first responders, but once you can do that, the hope that we have to get better is there, and you can get better, and you don't have to keep living the way you are. You can get better, and you can be resilient and continue in your career and be healthy again. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to suffer in ways that you probably don't even realize and don't even understand. So I think Firewatch is a great program.
You mentioned Stigma.
Yeah.
Are you talking Stigma like at the police, in the police force, or Stigma just amongst, your community? Both?
All of the above. I mean, as a police officer, we're trained very well in Wisconsin, but one of the things we're not trained very well is in mental health. Everybody is different with how they respond to mental health, the way they respond to the calls we go on. So you can't really say this is going to work for everybody. And that stigma is strong in the first responder profession because you're going to be judged. It's the stigma still exists. It's getting better, but it's still there. And I think it's always going to be there. But that stigma of saying, hey, I need help. I'm not doing okay. Even if you don't understand what you're going through, you tend to stay quiet. And I remember when I first started my career in my hometown, I was an evidence technician on third shift, and we had a triple homicide. 7 people were shot and 3 were killed. And I was fine. I wasn't affected. I wasn't having nightmares. I wasn't poorly coping. But weeks after that incident, the peer support team went around and kind of met with us, like when you see cops sitting side by side and, are you doing okay, Adam? And I was doing okay. But after going through what I went through and getting healthier and looking back, there is no way I would have told that peer support officer that I was struggling. This was my lifelong dream, to be a police officer in my hometown. And I had just got off of the training program. I'm driving my own squad car. There's no way I'd be like, well, I'm having bad dreams and I'm drinking. I wouldn't. No, I would have dealt with it myself, because there's a chance I could lose everything.
Yeah.
And 6 years after my critical incident, after suffering in silence for years, ultimately I did get terminated. I went on a leave of absence, and they didn't extend my leave of absence. And they said, you can either resign or we're terminating you. And I chose not to resign, and I got terminated. But I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I got the right kind of help, because I'm better now because of it. I'm a better man. I'm a better father. I'm a better police officer. I'm just a better person, and I'm healthier. And I'm living the kind of life that I should have been living 6 years ago.
Yeah. And I just want to add too, because you bring up so many great points, Adam, that the stigma isn't just the stigma around mental health, feeling emotions. It's all the stigma within, right? Like, we are raised in a culture that doesn't teach mental health skills. We're taught math, we're taught all these things, but we're not taught how to regulate ourselves, regulate our emotions, how the brain works, right? And why we respond to things the way we respond to things. And these are critical things, maybe even more so important than algebra, that we could be teaching our kids growing up, so they can take these things into their adulthood. So there's that self-stigma, there's stigma from others, because I'm sure as a first responder, you have the public watching you, right? Watching you deal with the widest variety of situations, and having to almost perform in a way to ensure that, not that you're keeping up your reputation in front of the public as well. And then again, as you've been talking about, is that systemic stigma of no one's following up with me. What is that telling us, right? That's telling us that it's not that important, and I should just be getting over it. So it's coming from a variety of places, and I can imagine just how much that weighs on someone who's struggling with mental health concerns and not even really knowing that that's what it is.
You're right. And I've received, many comments from the public that I shouldn't be a police officer now. Once they hear my mental health journey and what I went through and what I've overcome, they're like, you have no right to be a cop. You're kind of a mental cop. You're a nutcase. You shouldn't be doing it. And even I've got the same responses from some police officers. And, for 6 years, I've suffered in silence. And I find it hard to believe that the men and women at the police department that I worked with didn't know something was going on. I can't prove it, obviously, but I believe they did. And I think that they just weren't sure what to say or do, so they chose not to get involved at all. And I get that. It's that stigma. They don't want that connection with me. And I understand that. And, even after I was terminated, it has been 4 years and I was completely ghosted. Nobody texts me, calls me, nothing. It's like our friendships didn't exist. And that hurts. But you're absolutely right, Jen. The public, the people you work with, all of the above, everybody has an opinion. And what's most important is I got help, and I got the right kind of help, and I'm better today because of it. And that's what's important.
So speaking of getting help, Jen, in the Firewatch program, can we talk a little bit about results? Like, what have you seen, people coming in and then people leaving the Firewatch program? What type of results are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of really great results. And I just want to say, I mean, people are coming into this program skeptical. I mean, there's a lot of reluctance to come into this program. I think some people may have, been exposed a little bit more to mental health, and they're like, oh, here I can come, I can get help, and that'll be great. I'm not excited about it, obviously, but I'm going to do it. And then we have others who are like, I don't know why I'm here. This isn't going to help me. Nobody can help me. I just have to deal with it on my own, right? And so we get the wide variety, and I think what really gets them when they come into our program is they see who they're talking with and who they're interacting with. And our therapist is a veteran, our BS is a veteran. I'm the daughter of a Marine. You are dealing with people who care directly about this demographic of people. Our provider's husband is a lifelong firefighter. Our nurse's daughter is currently in boot camp. So yeah, I mean, you are walking into people who know what you're going through to a certain degree. And then also, we speak your language, right? Like this isn't a program where we talk a lot about I think people get really turned off by talking about emotions because one, we don't get taught these kinds of things. Talking about emotions, especially in this demographic, isn't normalized at all and completely invalidated when you do. So it's really nerve-wracking and uncomfortable to come in and do that. But I think what we're trying to focus on in this program is the fact that this is a normal reaction to being exposed to all of these abnormal circumstances for a long period of time. And we're really trying to work on rewiring the brain as much as we are expression and feeling your emotions and those types of things. People shy away a lot from wanting to express their emotions. But when we break it down into, a little bit of validation and how the brain works and why your nervous system is reacting the way it is, it feels less stigmatizing than when you think the therapist is going to ask you if you're feeling sad today. Like it's not like that. So as far as results go, I mean, we're seeing a really big decrease in people's moral injury. So that is something that we focus on in the program, is people who have, been in situations, like Adam has described, where they have to make a decision. Is it the decision they want to make? Absolutely not. But it's the decision that they have to make. And the consequences is going to be pain, right? After you make that hard decision, and there's no place to put it and not much to do with it, right? And we end up holding it in, and we end up, doing all the activities to distract ourselves. And if we don't feel it, then we must be on the right path. But that's really not how it works. So, I mean, statistically speaking, we're seeing great results with decrease in moral injury. We're seeing great results with people who have traumatic stress. We're seeing quality of life go up significantly. So, I mean, our outcomes are beautiful. We've had a lot of people come through our program and just, feel like it gave them the foundation that they can then use to go on in their career. We want people to continue to be in the police department, firefighters, go back, re-enlist, or whatever it is that they want to do. We're here for it. We're here to help give you the tools to do that.
And I'm just curious, Adam, what was your reaction when you found out that the Firewatch program existed?
I think it's great. It's so important. I mean, I continue to see a therapist. I also take medication. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, PTSD, acute stress with dissociative features, and a program like Firewatch, without a doubt, is going to be helpful. It's so important to getting better. It's so important to helping first responders and the military. And I think it's great. It's absolutely great. And, just touching on what Jen said a little bit earlier about having clinicians who speak our language and understand, that was a memory I have that was very important to when I started my healing process, was when I met another officer who had shot and killed somebody in the line of duty. And we started talking, and I didn't have to explain anything to him. All I had to do was talk, and he understood me. Even though his experience was different, even though my experience was different from his, we understood each other. And I still remember thinking, like, wow, this guy gets it. He's kind of just like me. And that's so important to making you feel that you're not alone and understand that you're not the only one out there. So what Jen said is so important, and Firewatch is so important to have those type of people in the program, because it's really going to help people.
Yeah. And, I think in a lot of ways, we feel like there has to be all these things in place for people to heal, like, oh, they have to, have access to this and this and all of that stuff. And, they have to have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we get really stuck on some of those things. But really, and I think even outside of the Firewatch program, but really near and dear to the Firewatch program is the theme of community and healing within communities. And I think that's something that we've lost. And I hate to keep coming back to culture, but I think in our culture, we're an individualistic culture where we pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, and if we're not doing it on our own, then there must be something wrong with us, or we're not doing it correctly. If we're asking for help, then we're a burden, and all these types of things. And That's so untrue, because the only way we can really truly heal is within that community, is with other people, is sharing our stories, is hearing other people's stories and recognizing that we're not alone, that, because oftentimes when we're doing this by ourselves, it's all going on in our head, right? Like we just keep turning it over and over again, and it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't process any different, and it's not going to improve your symptoms, right? The improvement comes when you can say it out loud, when you can start talking about it with somebody. So we need to move past this idea that we have to be individuals all the time and not ask for help. And I think that's what's so unique about bringing together first responders and veterans and active military in a group, is to watch that community come together and really support each other effectively. I mean, you have people who didn't want to talk about their emotions coming into the Firewatch program, and then you see them helping each other with emotions, talking about each other's emotions, and you're like, you knew what to do this whole time. It was in there, and we just needed that camaraderie and that togetherness to bring it out in people. And that's what I find is so unique and powerful about the Firewatch program.
And I will say, I think you touched on it a little bit, but Adam, with Stop the Threat, Stop the Stigma, in a perfect world, what's the solution in the police department? How do we stop the stigma?
I think you have to normalize mental health, and you have to begin at a young age, number one. Number two, go through grade school, elementary school, high school, college, the police academy, and continue that wherever you work, at a fire department, at a police department. It needs to be normalized. And every police department is different. Every fire department is different. You need to figure out what works for you, but it needs to be as normal as if you twist your ankle and you go to the doctor and get help. And leaders need to talk the talk and walk the walk. They can't just say, hey, if something happens, we'll take care of you. Everything will be okay. Well, that's not the case. That's not very reassuring. It's just important to have a space where first responders can get together and talk openly, confidential, in confidence. And that's what Firewatch brings. And that's why Firewatch is so important.
So what message would you have for someone who's struggling or is supporting someone who's struggling?
I'd say it's okay to talk about your mental health. You're not alone. Don't suffer in silence. Please get help. There's so many resources out there. You can use your cell phone in the privacy of your own home. Even if you don't understand what you're going through, reach out to somebody and say, hey, I feel off. Something's wrong. I don't get what I'm going through, but I know something's not right. I need help. There's so many people out there that are willing to help you. There are loved ones. And even if you can't reach out to your loved ones, your family, your friends, there are other people, clinicians, that will help you. And not just because they're getting paid, because they genuinely care. And they may have gone through what you went through, and they want to help you, and they want to see you get the right kind of help. If you know somebody who's struggling, please reach out to them. Even a simple text message, that takes 10 seconds to reach out, for example, and say, hey, Adam, I love you. I care about you. If you need anything, let me know. Many people did that to me, and I would look at my cell phone, and there were probably most of the time I wouldn't respond, but I still knew that there was somebody there. So please don't ignore that. If we know our family and friends better than other people. If you think something's wrong, please reach out. Reach out either in person, a text message, an email, something, and let them know, I care about you. I love you. I'm here for you if you need anything. It really means a lot to that person when they're going through something.
Well said. And Jen, if someone wants to learn more about Firewatch, what can they do? Where can they go?
If you're interested in the Firewatch program, We do have a direct line. It's 1-833-443-0824. And this goes directly to Ben, who is the front door just for the Firewatch program. And Ben is able to do a screening, accept and schedule somebody all in the same phone call. So we're really trying to make it easy for first responders, veterans, active military to get in the door quickly, because we know that it's so important to get that process started when someone is feeling ready or feeling the call to come and get some support. But we also have our online resources that you could go to our website. We have our limbic system online. And then there's a general admission line, all of which are able to get you to the same place.
So somebody calls, they're admitted to the Firewatch program. What can somebody expect when they walk through the doors?
I think the one great thing about both the Firewatch program and Rogers as a whole is that we start where the person is at. Like, nobody is expecting anyone to come through the door with all the right words for how they feel, all the, the ability to explain themselves. We understand that it takes time and space and safety and education to really kind of get that language and recognize where you're at. So, nobody's expecting you to come into the Firewatch program and be able to just spill your guts. Like, that is not what we expect. We would just love to have someone come. And if you just sit and listen for the first week, that's 100% fine, because you're getting the education, you're getting some skills, and you're also getting that community, which again promotes so much healing.
Jen Parra Nelsen, Captain Adam Meyers, thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, listeners, as we heard today, the weight first responders carry doesn't end when the call is over. It follows them home, into their families, and into the quiet moments most of us never see. Programs like Rogers Firewatch exist because that reality can't be ignored, and because no one who dedicates their life to protecting others should have to struggle in silence. If you or someone you know is a first responder who could benefit from support, resources like Firewatch are here to help, and reaching out can be the first step toward healing. And for everyone else, thanks for listening to another episode of Rise Above, a podcast from Rogers Behavioral Health. Be sure to like and subscribe to be notified of new episodes. And as always, if you or someone you care about is struggling with a mental health or substance use disorder, visit rogersbh.org for a free mental health screening. Until next time, thanks for listening.